A little bit of history. This project started about a year ago, and we did our first pass of the project with the concept that we wanted a clear project that would be transparent, mainly because of its location and its vicinity to the Caltrans station. We wanted to make sure that as this building was being populated, it was obvious as the trains were going by and traffic that there was a lot of activity in the building. There were people working, and maybe mainly the fabric of the building was going to be the users of the building. 7 months ago, we started working with the city, and with that, we evolved the project. A lot of influences came to the project. The history and fabric of Burlingame was a key one. So from there, we moved into what we have today, which is a building that has maintained some of its transparency, but also acquire some of the elements that are more, if you want to call, historical or classical to this of this city.
Good evening. My name is Linda Field. I'm a 25-year resident and homeowner in Burlingame, and tonight I'm here to speak out against this proposed 4-story mixed-use project. I read about it in the most recent weekend edition of the Daily Journal. The rendering of the proposed project shown in the article and posted on the window of the current building clearly illustrates that it is far and away too tall to complement the surrounding buildings. It will stick out like a sore thumb and negatively impact the streetscape. The current building is not quite as tall as the 2-story buildings on either end of it, which now house Sakai Restaurant and San Mateo here. So the proposed project will more than double the height of the current buildings on the site. In fact, the right side of the rooftop terrace looks like a 5th floor, which adds to the already oversized feel of the building. In addition, the facade of the proposed new building appears quite austere. I believe that it will loom above the street like a big, cold, unappealing slab. The facade of the building, which formerly housed the Home Consignment Center, is softened by architectural features such as heraldic shields, lion heads, and what I would call faux pillars. These features lend character to the building and add to its curb appeal. I suggest that the commission members make the short trip down to Redwood City and take a good, long look at how the massive projects underway there are changing the character of that city, especially the huge mixed-use project kitty corner across the intersection from their city hall. We have maximum building height limits for a reason, and they should not be waived lightly. Waive them in this instance, and it may very well open the door to additional similar requests for waivers in the downtown business and shopping district, which is now known for its welcoming small-town feel. And then there's the parking issue. How can there be a difference of 25 parking spaces between what the city regulations would require and what the developer believes will be sufficient to meet the demand? It's generally agreed that numbers can be manipulated to show whatever needs to be shown. So I would hazard a guess that that is exactly what happened when the estimated demand for parking spaces was calculated by the developer. I strongly urge you not to be entranced by the current siren call of urbanization that is sweeping the Bay Area. Instead of sacrificing what makes our town charming and livable to the insidiously seductive call for bigger, higher, denser building projects, keep Burlingame's small town scale intact so that we can be a lovely oasis in the midst of the urban blight that is changing the face of the peninsula. I thank you for the opportunity to address the commission.
Thank you.
I'd like for you to talk about how this actually fits into the spot that you've placed this building, and specifically with respect to the adjacent architecture and to the street on the front and the alley in the back. How does it fit?
How does it fit? Breaking down the building to me allows me to manage the mass and better. If I provide one type of articulation throughout the building, obviously the building's going to feel bigger and heavier. When I broke down the building into smaller pieces, not only base, middle, and top, but also vertically, it allowed me to do that. Was I going to mimic this? To me, existing architecture, the best way that I can respect that architecture is not to mimic it. It's always to propose architecture of today with respect on materials, proportions, articulation. If I was to mimic this building, or this one, or this one, or this one, we will have a collage, what I call Disneyland architecture. It's just the pieces. Because this building has really nothing to do with this building, nor the building next door. All four of these buildings are completely different from each other. If you look at them, they came through different periods of time.
Please step forward.
Hi, Philip Travisano. I've lived in the area for 20 years. I really agree with what this woman said, especially the aesthetic thing. This town is very historical. It's very quaint, and that is not quaint. It does not belong in downtown Burlingame. It does not belong. I don't know what those comments about historical and classical meant, but those are rectangles. Yeah, those are historical and classical, I guess, but that building does not belong here. As far as his comments about Disneyland, I think you probably are all aware that the library did not always look like that. However, if you came to town today for the first time, you might think that entire library was like that. It was built to mimic architecture that was there. Now, I'm not saying you need to mimic that building, but pick another building on the peninsula. Mimic that. You know, come up with something new and creative that looks like it was built 70 years ago. It's not impossible. It's difficult, and it might be more expensive, and it might not give you as much office space or parking, but it can be done, you know? The Walgreens, it's not bad. They tried, you know. I wouldn't believe that was a 70-year-old building, but it fits in much better. Look at the San Mateo High School. Beautiful. Nobody would pass that and think they just built that 12 years ago or whatever it was. They totally, well, they got lucky because they had a beautiful building there to totally replicate. But, you know, there's no building there to replicate. I understand you want a bigger building, that's fine. But make it look like it belongs there. Make it mimic what's there now. You don't have to add on to that. You know, it would be nice if it had lion heads. I love lion heads. But, you know, make it a taller building with lion heads. Make it look like the old theater that stood where the Fox Mall is now, which is hideous, you know? So that's, I think you get the idea. Thank you.
Thank you.